Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Parade Lab podcast. Today we are going to be unpacking the Spanish Grand Prix, which I thought was quite an exciting race in the end. I guess, what did you think, Sophie?
Yeah, I think it was one of the better ones. Yeah, a few like big moments that came from it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's quite a few talking points involved in it. Yeah, I was happy with the result. It looked like a good one for the crowd. It also looks like an amazing one to watch from in the grandstands. Like the view is amazing. So much track action that you see. So yeah, I found it quite enjoyable. So yeah, looking forward to hearing what your thoughts were on it.
Yeah, I mean, quick reaction was that just it was a good race. I think overall, there was quite a few moments to unpack, and I think they came right at the end for a lot of it. I mean, I hope this wasn't your meme of the week, but I did see a meme that sort of spoke about the Spanish Grand Prix and said, like it was like lap one really exciting, and then I don't know, lap two to whatever 59 not so great, and then those last kind of like six laps from like 60 onwards was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, what was happening? So that I think kind of sums up how the race went. And maybe to kick us off, you can tell me and the listeners what is your P3 from this race?
My P3 was the comeback of the Max and George drama, basically. It was all go on that front. We saw a bit of an angry Max come out. I've written here, Max, is he getting tired of Red Bull? Because they really screwed him over with the hard tire at the end when he said, "What tire are we on?" And he said, "Why?" It was just not a good move. But they didn't have a choice. So, and that's exactly what they said to him. We didn't have any other option. We just had the hard. It was really funny to see the graphic of all the tires, and I think it was everybody in the field was on softs, and then Max and was he P4 at that stage?
Yeah.
Hard. Um, yeah, so that obviously made it difficult for him. If that was me, that would annoy me, and that would be quite hard to deal with, I think, when you're like in the heat of the moment and there's so much pressure happening. Yeah, it really put him on the back foot. So he would have been annoyed from that. And then George, out of all people, was the one close to him. And yeah, then their little maneuver, and then he was told to give the position back. And then he was arguing. And then that was the first time that maybe not the first time, but it was a memorable time, I think, that we heard GP kind of telling him off in a sense.
Yeah.
And he said, those are the rules. Um, quite firmly, which I found quite interesting because usually you hear quite a bit of banter between the two of them, but this was quite firm, sort of like
Mm,
it really made it sound like Max was sort of on his own in that moment in his thinking,
yeah.
which would also be quite hard. And then, yeah, he retaliated by giving George a little bit of a nudge, which is not a good move. Yeah, so that was quite a big deal, and it's been quite a big talking point since the race. So that was a big thing. And one thing I did think about that is I saw an interview that Max did afterwards, and
Yeah.
it was a reporter asking him, it must have been asking him, was that an intentional move? And sort of
Mm,
said, like, that wasn't very nice for people to see that. And he said, oh, really? And like he was just quite kind of short with his answers. And she said, yeah, I think for the fans to see that happening, like it's not a good thing. And
yeah.
he goes, well, that's your opinion. I don't want to talk about it, like it's one moment in the race. And I thought like he answered that pretty well, but it was quite sad to see him looking so down and disappointed, I thought, because we like the funny interviews that he does afterwards. And yeah, it was just a bit of a downer. But yeah, it was a big moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was maybe one of your talking points as well.
It
Yeah,
was.
what
It
was your
was.
P3?
I guess I'll come to the my comments on the Mac stuff when I
Yeah.
do mine. My P3 was Nico Hulkenberg in P5. Oh my goodness. Well done, Nico Hulkenberg.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was just amazing. And he kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't really following his like him climbing up the ranks like from P15. He started in P15. I think he passed quite a few people on turn one, like lap one.
Like
So
five or
yeah,
something.
so he
Yeah.
jumped like a lot of places up already and kind of maybe was already in the points. And then just through a series of events ended up I think P6 or maybe I don't know even like because
P5.
there were a few changes. No, I mean like before he got because didn't he
Oh,
also
sorry,
move
sorry.
up because of he moved
Yeah.
up because of Max obviously being penalized. So maybe he finished like P6. But also then
Hmm.
he made this last minute move on Lewis. So like he was maybe slightly lower, but because of some events, he went up more. But still, like to end up at P5 from P15 and in a Sauber, like,
Hmm.
and then he made that move at the end on Lewis. Like he overtook like Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari to move up one more place. I just thought that was such a brilliant drive from him.
Hmm.
And Hulkenberg's been around for a long time. I think he's like the third most experienced driver on the grid at the moment. There's obviously Alonso and then Hamilton, and then I think it's Hulkenberg. And he's never, number one, never won a race, and number two, never even been on the podium. And he's
No.
actually really good. Like I think
Mm.
Haas, like last year, he was still scoring points. There were some surprises. I think there was also a meme saying that he's got in this one race, he scored more points than the second Red Bull driver the
Yes.
whole of 2025.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I just really hope that he gets a podium at the very least, and then hopefully a win at some point, if he sticks around longer in Formula One. That would be really amazing.
I would love to see him get a podium. I'm sure everyone would love that. I think that would be a huge deal. Even if it was, say, this is the round where the champion is crowned. So
Mm,
I'm going to say, hypothetically, that's going to be Oscar in P1
hmm
on the podium, right? And it's going to be the big thing of he's getting the trophy. But then, so imagine that scene happening pretty clearly. But then think Nico Hulkenberg, he's standing P3 on the podium. I think that would be like equally as big of a deal. Good
Be
on Oscar.
huge.
Awesome.
Yeah.
World champion. Well done. Nico, though, on the podium finally. Because doesn't he have the longest streak of a driver without a podium? Um, yeah.
He does. Yeah. Yeah, he
Mm.
does. That would be really good, if he did that. So I don't know. Let's see what
I
happens.
would
But
love to see that happen.
I just thought he did so well and did not end up with driver of the day because
I know.
I'll still
Robbed.
I'll still come to that like when I when I comment on like Max. But yeah, Max ended up with that and I think yeah, Hulkenberg was absolutely robbed of that.
Yeah, well, my P2 is the same. I have written that it was a standout performance from Hulkenberg. He was just hustling hard the whole time.
Hmm.
And yes, he was robbed of Driver of the Day. Driver of the Day is a weird one because it's
Mm.
usually like a popularity vote. Sometimes it's also people collectively trying to pick a funny winner, like
Mm.
someone who is really dramatic in the race. And maybe that is how people determine who their
Yeah.
driver of the race was, who made the race for them, I guess. But yeah, it would have been cool if he had have got that. Sauber also got the fastest pit stop of that race, which is
They did?
quite cool. That's a big
How
step
fast
up.
was it?
2.13. Yeah, but 10 points for him in P5, so that's nice. That's changed the constructor standings a little bit. Sauber has now gone up to eighth,
I think they've got
with
Alpine
16 points.
potentially moved down because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got the order is we've got McLaren, healthy lead, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull Racing, Williams, Racing Bulls,
Yeah.
Haas quite close behind Racing Bulls by 2 points. Sauber and Aston Martin both have 16 points, and then Alpine in 10th. So it's changed things up, but it'll be interesting to see how he does maybe in the next race if he's just on a high of confidence. Not that he's ever been one that doesn't have confidence, because as you
Yeah.
say, he's one of the more experienced ones. But hopefully, it's just a nice bit of momentum for the team to ride,
I hope
because
so.
that's so exciting for them.
It is.
And
I think
yeah,
Bortoleto is the only person who hasn't scored any points now on the grid, but so his teammate. So it'd be interesting to see if he can also, I don't know, find some form.
Yeah,
Maybe the
we've got
car is just better.
Bortoleto
Yeah.
and Franco.
Okay,
Franco and
very
Jack
slow.
are both on the table with zero with Gabrielle.
Interesting.
So,
Might be too. So I guess coming back to what you were saying, I guess it is what you were saying, but my thing was basically the P2 moment was the restart after the safety car. So, and it was particularly what happened with Max, with Charles, and also George. So just like
hmm
how that all unfolded. So like you said, he went onto the hard tire when everybody pitted, but he was also on a three-stop strategy, which was different from I think the others on the track. And so then when the safety car came, he needed to go and pit again. Otherwise, he would have been on like older tires compared to everybody else. He went onto the hards, which it was like, what are you doing for the last few laps? But they didn't have anything else, so that was the only option. And then Charles being able to like immediately jump on him. Like he sort of even like made a mishap, right? He kind of like skidded to the side and then
mm,
Charles got because of the hard tires, I think also. So he was able to capitalize on that, but then
hmm
they touched. But it was fair, like what ha ended up happening. But then after Charles went across, then George came around. And then as George was coming, that was a bit of a dicey one where, maybe George was at fault and it wasn't 100% okay. If it went to the stewards, I don't know what would have happened.
mm,
Because George kind of nudged him and he went off track and then ended up being in front and then saying, his team told him to give the place back, but they hadn't gotten anything to say that, like, it was sort of touch and go. And from the commentators, especially Nico Rosberg was actually one of the commentators, and he was like, no, he didn't need to give it back. That was sort of George's fault in that one. And so his team made the wrong decision telling him to give the place back,
mm.
effectively. And then he got angry and he ended up hitting or ramming into George, like, because he didn't want to do it. And I just think that's really bad. Like, I think he is like a little kid that just throws his toys out of the cot when he gets upset. And it is that thing of what people say where it's like he was in a really strong position that whole race. Like he was doing so well, even with trying to keep up with the McLarens and putting some pressure on them. And then in just his like moment of anger or frustration, he just sort of lashes out. And I don't think you'd ever see that from somebody like Oscar, for example, just in terms of composure. And, he
Mm,
may get irritated, or frustrated, and I'm sure he may voice that. But I don't think you'd ever see Oscar just intentionally ramming into someone because he was upset with what was going on with the strategy,
mm,
right? And that is such a big difference in terms of like how you handle yourself. And it was fine because nothing happened, but it's also hugely dangerous. So I kind of agreed with, what people were saying, and they were also saying it was the fact that he only got a 10-second penalty was really they went really easy on him. Like that was actually like really bad behavior.
well, he got
Um
penalty points as well, didn't he?
yeah, but it was more
He's
like
like
that
one
should have
point
been
away from a race ban.
I think they were like black flag, disqualified, like you
Mm,
shouldn't, like that should have been, if it was so clearly intentional and it wasn't a mistake, that's just
true.
not on.
hmm
So I feel like me maybe on the Max side with this thing, I'm on this side of it, and maybe like you're on the other side. But even that interview that I watched where he was with the commentator, I listened to the same one, and he gave that answer where she was just asking the questions, and he was like, "Oh, well, that's your opinion," and
Mm,
well, okay, that's whatever. I'm not commenting on it. Um, I just was like so unimpressed with it. So I
mm,
really felt for her. She was obviously trying to do her job there, but he was just having none of it. I do know that people have also said like, oh, this is not the only time it's happened. Like Vettel once did that to Lewis Hamilton, where, someone even like Sebastian Vettel
I
intentionally
remember
went
that
into.
one.
Yeah, so it does. Drivers do this. It's not only Max. But I don't know, I just feel like just the way it went down, it's just somebody getting irritated and then just slamming into them. And it wasn't
Mm,
even, I mean, it wasn't really Russell's fault. Like, he was now just trying to overtake. It was frustration with his team, I think, at the end of the day.
yeah.
Um, and it is funny how it ended up being George because they already have this history and this beef. But yeah, and
What
then
are the chances?
exactly. I actually thought George handled the reaction way better than I thought he was going to, because, compared to previously, he was very measured in it and
hmm
he was sort of just like, well, I don't know what happened there. He also said Max did such a good race. He's such a good driver. He made such good moves in like the race before, like I think at Imola or Monaco, and now you just see him in a moment sort of doing this, where
Mm,
he's doing something like that, and also mentioning that this is like, it's not a great thing to be seeing when you're racing.
mm,
So I was really surprised that he kind of took that stance instead of going like kind of not being the victim, but sometimes George in some of his interviews can be a bit more like,
mm.
oh, like Max was off like fault properly and all of that. So yeah.
He
Um
took more of the high road, I guess, in that. But
yeah, he
yeah.
did. And actually on the radio, Max was also really upset with Charles. Like obviously not upset, but he was like, oh, he pushed me off and he did this. And they questioned Charles about it too, and he said, "Oh, I would have said the same thing probably because you're fighting for P3 and you need to, if you feel there's any chance that something is, you're going to radio in and say that." So that was also how he handled that in terms of commenting on it. But yeah, I don't know because I feel like Max could potentially do something that is actually very dangerous if he gets
Mm,
upset, and he gets upset when he's not winning. And he's actually not in his dominant position this season. So I actually wonder as we see the season unfold and he gets more and more sort of desperate or reckless, what will he actually do in terms of like preventing others from winning? It's kind of interesting.
hmm Yeah. Well, I surely he wouldn't try to do something again, but also that he wouldn't be able to do something again
It
of that nature
ends
because they
it
must uh
Are you talking about
they're
the
going to
penalty
yeah,
points?
they're
So
going to, enforce something on him so that it's just not worth the risk, like in terms of penalties or
yeah.
maybe super license points or a fine or something. I mean, he'd be making enough money that probably doesn't matter, but like surely he wouldn't try something again.
I don't know. And it's
Yeah.
so interesting. I would love to see this unfold. And then his like statements
Yeah.
that he put out on social media or his Instagram, which
I saw
obviously
that.
was like not what he would say. It was obviously the team, sort of position on it, but it was really interesting. So
Mm,
yeah, I'm just interested to also just see how this unfolds because I think he's going to
hmm
find himself in more and more situations this season, especially compared to the previous. I mean, what he's won the championship like what, four times now? I think
Four
yeah, four
times.
times.
Yeah.
So,
hmm
well, maybe that first year, I mean, that was really tight with Lewis, but the past 3 years he's just been dominant and
Easily.
easily, and he's now in a position. I wonder if it's the first time in the last 3 years where he's not leading the championship and the gap is also getting
Yeah.
bigger.
I
Um,
saw an amazing graphic today. I think Formula One posted it, and it was Max's championship winning um, streak. And
mm,
it was, I don't know if it must have been by race, but it was just all these dark blue Red Bull squares. And then um, there were a few for his like championship wins. And then just the last however many are just papaya now. But it's amazing when you see it in like a graph kind of form.
yeah.
Yeah. So then you think about how that would feel if you were just the guy for that long, to then not be the guy on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, like that would suck because I mean they're all competitive, none of them want to lose. But Oscar is just like he's just there. Like he doesn't make a fuss. He's almost like so calm about it. Like he's a championship leader, but he's not bragging about it. I wonder if that would make a difference for how Max feels if someone was like, "Oh yeah, I'm leading the championship," and being like
Mm,
really sort of showy about it.
mm.
Oscar's just leading, and it's just like a fact that he is.
That's so
I wonder
interesting.
if
Yeah.
that's triggering, like, or or not as bad as it
Or it
could
would
be.
be even worse. Yeah, like
It's
actually,
like he doesn't even care almost. I don't know if that would annoy me more
that is
or
so interesting because
yeah, just a thought I had.
things actually got really heated between Hamilton and him in the lead up to obviously
Oh yeah.
when he ended up winning, right? It was so because it was neck and neck, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it was at Silverstone, and there were so many instances
Yes.
where they touched, like that.
Yep.
That happened to be on Max. There was other ones where it was Lewis, and there was this
Yep.
back and forth where there was some major incidents with them because they were both pushing really hard and at it
Mm.
together. And maybe, yeah, I guess you haven't really seen Max have that with anybody else,
Mm. There
really.
was the little one with Lando in
Lando,
Austria last year
and you
where they
saw,
both went out, or Lando went out, Max got like 2 points or something.
But it
Yeah,
was also
that was maybe
because
the closest.
yeah, and then you also saw that sort of aggressiveness come out again when it was kind of getting a little bit close with Lando, where it was like,
Mm.
okay, I will just like push or get him out the way. So
Yeah.
that will be interesting. I thought one of the funny comments on that ended up coming out on that whole incident was Lando in the cool down room, where he was like, I've done that before on Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
Just like adding in that
Mm-hmm.
comment.
Did you see the video
Yeah.
of him being asked about that comment? And
Mhm.
he went, "Oh, you heard that?" He went, "Oh,
And he was
good."
like, "Oh no."
And then he just did the most media trained answer ever, which was quite funny.
Yeah, I thought
Also
that.
to see that they like can switch just into their script, which
Hmm.
they're all given a script, right? Like
Yep.
they always say the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny to see a little bit of oops.
Humor from that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of really, it also divided people. Not divided, but there was a lot of asking the drivers about what they thought about that, and all of them
Yeah.
trying to be really careful and sensitive about what they said straight
Mm,
away.
mm.
Which was also like interesting to see that's was their reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I doubt any of them actually like reading the articles that are written about them, like
Mm.
when they're quoted. Like it's so easy to be misquoted and things. So I guess if you say the wrong thing, then all of a sudden you're on just a side. And if the rest of the grid doesn't say much, then it's just you standing out, being the person who's spoken out. But yeah, the
Mm.
interviews afterwards were interesting. The one that Max did with the female reporter that we've been talking about, I think I felt bad for him. I felt bad for her because that would be very hard if that was your job and someone wasn't wanting to talk to you. But I felt really bad for him because I thought, yeah, some of the questions were a bit harsh. But I felt sad when she said something about his championship potential or
Yeah.
something, and he said if there is any, like he said, we're just too slow. So I think that was yeah, like he was just very honest about it. You can see that that's what he's thinking, that he's just not going to get another one. And he's already got four. He may not care, but I don't think he's there just to putt around in P5 or whatever. So yeah, I think that was quite telling because he was very straightforward. He doesn't think their car is any good. And it would also be really hard if his teammate's not scoring points as well. It would be completely different if the teammate was at least 2 places behind him or something getting points because he must feel so much pressure just in terms of the constructors. Like he's the one getting all the points.
Does Max
Yeah.
care about the constructors? I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
I don't know.
I think he wants his at this point, I think he wants, he's going
He would
for
want
yeah,
one. Yeah.
he wants his
Yeah.
stuff
If
and
that's unattainable, though, I think you would think, okay, constellation prize, let's get the team one. But then also, if the team's not helping you get the first one, then yeah, a little bit tricky. I just think maybe they need to have a team building day, just reset, do something.
so
Hmm.
okay, so a very
One
big
to watch.
uh point in that race for sure. Talking point, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what they spent most of the time post-race commenting on. Like poor Oscar.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't
Yeah.
about his win. It was all about that afterwards. Like everything was
Yeah.
around that and watching the replays and looking at if it was
Yep.
intentional and all of these things. So lots and lots
Yeah.
spoken about that, and we've both had it. But
Mm-hmm.
what was, if this wasn't your P1 in the race, what
No.
was your P1? I'm curious if it's the same as mine now because we've been quite lockstep in these.
Might be. My P1, it kind of relates to something I said in the last episode as a prediction that I was hoping would happen, and it did. Alonso got a point. Yay. His first one of the season, which is crazy considering he's so good. Yeah, he was just on the charge, and it just looked like he was just having so much fun. And the
Yeah,
commentators kept saying things like he's putting a show on for the home crowd and
yeah.
stuff, and like the Spanish Grand Prix being his home race. Just really special, and I love when things like that happen. The
Mm,
home race, just seeing what sort of media and stuff comes out around the drivers. Yeah, so good on him for getting a point, and it's good for Aston Martin.
yeah.
Yeah, just enjoyable to watch. So I thought that was a nice P1 after the fairly dramatic moments that we've already
I
been talking
know.
about. So yeah, nice and simple P1, 1 point
I
for Alonso.
I think that's a great P1 because it's
Hmm.
also my P1. So we
Nice.
we've had basically exactly the same podium
Nice.
for the Spanish Grand Prix, just in a slightly different order. One difference. Yeah,
Hmm.
I said points on the board for Fernando. And in his home Grand Prix, like
Hmm.
finally he got it, and I really wanted him to, same as you. I think we spoke about it to say. Hope
Hmm.
he gets, it would be great if he could get points. I think
Yeah.
he ended up finishing P9, right? So maybe more than 1 point, like 2 points or something. But definitely points for him. Uh, yeah,
I'm just looking. Yeah, P9. I wrote the right 2 points. Yes,
two
even
points.
better.
Yeah, even better for
Um,
him.
yeah, sorry, Max got 1 point. That's why I had that
Exactly.
on
He
the
moved,
brain.
he moved
Um,
down. Yeah, and then
yeah,
picked
two
everybody up.
points for Alonso, which is
Yeah.
cool. I wonder if it is like a comfort thing at your home track that you just do feel more confident, you feel more support from the crowd, or
Hmm.
maybe the car was just doing better. Like,
I don't know. It was also a bit touch and go. I didn't know if he was going to be in the points
well, there
because
were
he
quite a
was
few
moving.
moments.
Yeah, he was moving like he was out, and then he was
Mm,
had to sort of overtake people and get back in. So I actually
mm,
wasn't sure if he was going to score his points in that. And then yeah, he must have actually
mm.
finished P10, but with Max's going down, it bumped him up.
Yep.
So yeah, it was close. I actually wasn't sure if he was gonna be in there at
Mm,
points. But it was good. And yeah, maybe it did give him an extra boost to be like, okay, I really need to make sure that
yeah.
I try and also because he's been so unlucky this season so far, right?
Yeah.
Just has not been able to catch a break and get good
Yeah.
points. Even when I think there was a race where both the Astons qualified really well, compared to everything else, and he still didn't manage to convert.
Mm,
Um, so it was really good for him. And then also Stroll ended up not driving in that race. So
yeah.
Aston
Yeah.
only had one car because he qualified, but he had to, I think, drop out because of like a wrist surgery or something. Although I
Yeah.
heard rumors about something else going on, but apparently it was to do with his
Oh yeah, that was
surgery.
shut down, that rumor. It was like
Okay.
that he was being rude to the
Yeah,
team,
we got
swearing
into,
at
yeah,
them,
and threw
and
stuff
someone from the team
around. Yeah.
commented and said, no, that didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was like his injury flared up again. What's interesting about that is if he had have pulled out before qualifying, he would have been replaced by a reserve driver for the
Mm,
team, which would
that's
be
what I
Felipe
said.
Drugovich
Yeah.
or Stoffel Van Dorn, I think. It would suck to be the reserve driver and think that you could have
Could
been
have, yeah.
driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would just be, I think, really hard. But then honestly, maybe it's a good thing for the team sometimes
Mm,
because you can sort of just instead of being go, go, go and then struggling or however the race would pan out, they sort of
yeah.
can just sit back and almost evaluate their like methods and things. And
Mm,
maybe that's why they went a little bit better with Alonso, that they had a few more eyes on his car from Lance's side of the garage. I'm not sure how that would work if that even does happen, but even
Yeah.
just, more of a relaxed kind of environment, if that contributes to anything.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want every team to have two cars, but
Yeah.
there must be advantages of just being able to focus on the one for a day. But yeah, it was nice to see anyway. And he had some good battles. I loved the one with Hadjar. I thought that was very brave of Isaac to go up alongside him. But that's why I thought it just looked like Alonso was having fun because he was
Yeah.
being challenged by these rookies
Yeah.
and other people around him. Like it just looked like proper racing that he was just right amongst it and loving it.
He
So to get points at
was.
the end of that is better.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of cool. Like, look at Alonso. He's still there after so many years. And, okay, he hasn't had the greatest season. But yeah, I think he just enjoys it. Like,
Mm,
because he just seems really, he was happy to get those points and be like, on the board. And I don't know, even when they they come to him at the end, even if it's been like a bad race, he's still kind of he just answers like not that he's not emotional, but yeah, he's just like, oh well, okay, that wasn't our day or whatever.
pretty
And then
straightforward.
yeah, and then you just go
Mm.
to the next one and see what you can do. So it'd be interesting to see what happens next year. Is he still contracted next year? So will he be in like the
Yes,
new car
I
and all of
think his
that with
contract goes
Newey?
to the end of 2026. Well,
Okay.
he was a big part of getting
A
Adrian to the
new okay,
team. I
okay.
think whether or not this is been verified, he offered for some of his salary to go towards paying for Newey.
Wow.
That's how much he wanted him to be at the same team as him. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he'd definitely want to stick around. But I guess the thing is that everyone says that Adrian's influence won't really be making a huge difference until maybe a year or two into it.
Mm.
But he's already started on the new regulations
Yeah.
and things, and he was at the track with the team in Monaco, so he's
Okay.
already had a little bit of a presence. But yeah,
Interesting.
hmm,
Okay. So that was our very in-step P3,
very.
P2, P1 podium.
Hmm.
Were there any other standouts or things you want to call out from that race?
Another win for Oscar Piastri.
Mhm.
Like you said before, it's sort of overshadowed a little bit. Um, yeah, fifth one for the year. Very exciting. I thought it was really interesting. So lots of people said after Monaco, and we mentioned it as
Mm.
well, that like, was he having an off weekend? Is it gonna continue? Is it gonna knock his confidence?
Yeah.
No, no, it didn't. So that was kind of cool just to see, like because it was in a triple header, there was only a week in between
Yeah.
the last race in Monaco and this one.
Mm.
So if there had been maybe even 2 weeks in between, those stories would have built up a little bit more in
Yeah.
terms of the and McLaren is now Lando's, like he's going to get the,
Oh, getting it.
you
Yeah.
know,
Is
yeah,
Oscar like, yeah,
because of
actually.
the most previous win being
Yeah.
it was Lando in Monaco.
Mm.
So I just think it was kind of cool how Oscar sort of just shut it down just by doing his thing. I liked how I want to say the word animated, but I that seems a little bit wrong. I liked how animated he was on his radio at the end of the race when he said like, "Oh, you said it would be a good
Mm.
weekend, and you were right," and he was swearing as part of it. Like it was just it was funny because it was just his personality coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that entertaining. But yeah, five this season. He's pulled well ahead in terms of he's
Yeah.
leading the championship, but um number of wins,
Very
he's a
strong.
fair
Yeah,
way ahead. Yeah.
exactly. Because it's kind of five to him and then two to Lando, two to Max, I think it is. Yeah. So
I
now,
think so.
yeah. And obviously 10 points between Oscar and Lando now, and lots of points between Max because of this, 1 point finish in this race. Um, but yeah, I also wrote down, I said Oscar just had the edge on Lando this weekend. So
Hmm.
In qualifying, actually, Lando was provisionally on pole up until that last lap that they both did, and that's where Oscar like managed to pull it out the bag, and then Lando just made it too many little mistakes, and so it came down to that again, where he could have had it. Like was at one point faster than Oscar right until the last lap they did. And then Oscar managed to hold it together and Lando
Mm,
let it slide, and
hmm.
he almost had it. So yeah, I think for Lando it will come down to this whole qualifying thing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that then happened in the race, I think at the start of that race was that Max got ahead of Lando, right? I think
Oscar
in
had a really good start as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
had a
just
good
pulled away
start.
and then
He
Lando got
pulled away.
stuck with Max,
Max,
behind Max.
yeah, and then Max got ahead into that. So, that didn't help him. He was P2, but then
Mm,
he got stuck in that. And then
hmm.
they have spoken about how with the McLarens it is about qualifying and who gets ahead because there's also the dirty air and you're in the same car. And yeah, Oscar just did better that race.
Hmm.
And it'd be interesting to see how this plays out between the two of them for the
Yeah.
championship. And
Yeah.
maybe if we see Max come back, because I mean, definitely don't discount Max, which was also something I think even I said in my predictions is, yeah, he didn't have a great race, but he will fight for this. Even if he said like you said, the commentary, oh, I don't know, I'm pretty sure he'll be fighting like every single race to try and make sure
Yeah.
that he at least puts some pressure on them and goes for that.
Or how disappointing would it be just to watch him give up and just be a menace every weekend, just like there and oops, I crashed here, I did this. Like it doesn't happen. But
Yeah,
I think
he.
one of the interesting bits is that this is happening in Formula One, that they're like the most, it's the pinnacle. They're supposed to be the
Mm,
most professional drivers,
mm,
and things like that are happening when it's a little bit more like bumper carts.
exactly,
Maybe
like
it happens
go-karting
in
with kids.
go-karts. Yeah. George Russell called out that was an interesting thing actually. George Russell said that shouldn't be happening in Formula One. I would expect it to happen in Formula E with a certain British driver, and he was calling out Dan Ticktum, which was like, oh my God, starting the drama. Um, yeah, so that was interesting. So Dan Ticktum made a few social media things about that. Um, yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
which is also kind of mean. If you're in another series and then a Formula One guy's picking on you, there's
Yeah.
no need for that. Like they've already got the big salary and everything, and just leave them be.
I didn't hear that, and I also don't know what goes like. You probably have
Yeah,
more
it
insight.
was a
That was
comment like,
only
I don't know if he said I would expect that to happen, but he said a certain British driver in Formula
oh,
E. And
but
there's
he
quite a few
was
British drivers in
yeah.
Formula E, but Dan Ticktum is known to have quite
Oh,
feisty nature to him, and he's always got something to say.
I
But
see. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's entertaining. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. The other thing
Mm.
was there anything else you had besides, I guess, the Oscar and George's
I've
drama?
written it was a great qualifying for Gasly. Happy to see him in
Mm-hmm.
P8. That was
Good for
nice. I
Alpine.
also wrote down about the fighting Ferraris. It was interesting seeing that the
Mm.
team orders favored Charles
Mm-hmm.
when it looked like Lewis was going quite well. That was early on in the race. I wrote this down, so that was just interesting. Yeah,
Yep.
can't read Ferraris still.
I put down, well, I put down for everything that's happened and all the grief with Ferrari, and we feel like every week we're like, oh my God, the radio messages, the strategy, whatever.
Hmm.
Ferrari is number two in the constructors after this race.
Mm.
They've leapfrogged Mercedes and Red Bull, and they're second. Obviously, not
Hmm.
by very much, but they've managed to get up there.
Is that
Um,
because Antonelli got a DNF this race?
Antonelli,
Yeah.
obviously Max with less points than usual for Red
Yep.
Bull. Second driver, between Lawson and Sonoda, just like not getting very many points at all so far.
Mm,
So Red Bull, and then yeah, I think Kimi. They were discussing that he's had this is not his first car like problem. I think he also wasn't it in Imola, like his home race. He also
yeah.
had car problems in the
Yes.
end.
Yep.
And so that wasn't great either. So there's definitely something up with the car, and
Mm-hmm.
they asked Toto about that too, I think, in the end. So yeah, even though George was kind of Mr. Consistent, that's not helping them. And so yeah, somehow
Mm,
Ferraris ended
mm.
up second. And also just curious because I feel like this happened last year too, where in the end it was almost between McLaren and Ferrari.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
almost,
that
it
was.
was. It was. There
Yeah, it
was the two of
was.
them, but
Both teams would have been prepared with their We're
yeah,
World Champions
yeah,
content and everything. I
yeah.
would love to see what Ferrari had put together. I just think it would have been really cool.
But
Yeah.
obviously that was different, and you'd already seen wins like from Ferrari
Mm,
at this stage of
mm.
the season. I think either between Carlos or Charles, like they had, there was actually like seeing that, and there's been no wins. Okay, there's been like the podiums for Charles on it, but it just felt tragic, and so I don't know how that's happened. And I've also seen a
Yeah.
meme that said like does nothing ends up like second in
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
in the drivers. I
Yeah.
mean in the constructors. So yeah.
Ferrari is 6 points ahead of Mercedes, and it's quite interesting. And then McLaren has 362
Yeah,
points.
it's yeah,
Ferrari has
yeah.
165.
Hmm.
It's quite a margin. But it's interesting to think about who has the race wins to them. So obviously, um, Lando and Oscar both are winning,
Yeah.
and then Max is the other winner, but Max is in four. Well, the Max's team, Red Bull, is in four.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is interesting just to see like Mr. Consistent, and Ferrari is somehow consistent. I mean they've had a podium, haven't they? But a couple podiums. It's just interesting to see how even when you're not paying attention to the team points, they are just ticking along,
Yeah, they
and
are.
yeah,
And
that is interesting to see.
and also Ferrari's lower than what they should be because they had that double disqualification early on in the season. I can't remember if it was China or where it
Mm,
was. Where actually they both finished in like decent positions and they lost all their
yeah.
points because
Yep.
of that. So that double disqualification. So it's just interesting that they
Mm-hmm.
somehow still managed to end up there. But yeah, Lewis had a bad race, even though he finished, I think, P6, like after Hulk. But the fact that he finished after Hulkenberg is bad. And obviously seeing his teammate like on the podium, so that was a
Mm-hmm.
possibility. And him just not being able to, get in touch with the car, be able to
Mm,
do that. He also just didn't have the pace. I know you said they favored Charles, but it felt like he was ahead, and then
mm,
it started like Charles was getting really, really close to him quite quickly.
yeah.
So I don't know what's happening there, but that just continues with them not really figuring that out. The other interesting thing I said, although it's not really worth, is that going into too much detail, is there was all this talk about this front wing regulation, and
Yeah.
what was it going to do? It could really impact McLaren, and we would see that would be the team where, maybe the others could catch up and McLaren wouldn't have the advantage. And nope, they were
Nope.
fine. One
Yeah.
two, absolutely fine.
Yeah. That's
So
kind of funny,
mm,
but also like props to McLaren that
yeah.
they have obviously just built a very good car in them. They're doing well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but everyone
Yeah.
else who was probably thinking they were in with a chance is like, oh,
Oh no,
okay.
yeah.
What rule can we change next?
And the other thing I had with this race is just that, oh, Williams, like they just had a bad race. And
Yeah.
we've been gotten so used to just keep saying, like, Williams in the points or double points or
Mm-hmm.
Albon finishing really well. And this was just like not their weekend. It was their worst weekend this season, I think.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to Carlos in qualifying?
I
Because he
can't
was right at the
remember.
back.
Yeah, he was out
Mm.
really early. He qualified badly in the end.
Mm.
I don't know.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh, wow.
So.
I'm intrigued to see what our meme of the weeks are if we've accidentally picked the same one.
I had two options, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you're going to do the same one as me. It was this one that kind of says like It goes Leclerc P3, Hadjar P7, Alonso P9, and then it's like, oh my God, Hulkenberg P5.
I loved that one.
It's like,
Yeah.
what? What? Oh my God. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was good. Yeah, it was great to see Leclerc P3. Hadjar has just been so, so good this season. Alonso, we both mentioned it. And then, oh my God, Hulkenberg. Yeah.
hmm
What about you?
Yeah. Nice. No, I did a different one. I have Max and George in our Get Along t-shirt. Which is pretty fitting. I mean, obviously it's a serious thing
Yeah.
that happened between them, but that's quite funny.
It's just gonna make stuff really awkward, I think. Even more awkward than maybe it was
Yeah, yeah. Which I guess was
before.
nice to see that George was relatively unfazed by it. But I guess it wasn't like personal comments this time. It was
Mm,
action, but I guess actions speak louder than words. But yeah, it was interesting to see how different it was since
yeah,
their big, blow up kind of thing in the
absolutely.
media. Mm,
Okay, so no shortage of talking points for
no,
this race. Where we are off to Canada next.
Montreal.
Have a bit of a break because it's sort of like 2 weeks in between.
Hmm.
Any thoughts on that race or
Going to be raining.
predictions?
I
Going to
think
be
it's going
raining.
to be
Okay.
wet. Yep, I
Okay.
think the forecast is for it to be wet.
Yeah.
It will be interesting if Lance Stroll is driving or not, being
Hmm.
his home Grand Prix. It would be a shame if he wasn't driving in his home one, but also if anyone were to not be bothered by that, it would probably be Lance.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would say another McLaren win. I think I'm going to back Oscar again. I'd like to see someone rogue up high in the points. I think I would like yeah, just a few stand like we had with Hulkenberg in
Hulkenberg.
this race. I want another like, oh my God, good on them. They're in P4. That would be nice. But I think it'll be an interesting race. Maybe like two or three safety cars. I think there's going to be a bit of
Mm.
carnage if it's slippery and yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be nice to have a different one.
I
Yeah.
like how you said I think it's gonna be carnage, and then you're like, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, like
Yeah. I
sure.
mean, nothing like serious, but
Yeah, but just like a
yeah.
few
A
crashes or
safety
something.
car
Yeah,
makes
safety
things
car. Yeah.
interesting, a rolling start, things like that.
Mm.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I don't know if many of the rookies would have driven there either. That might be an interesting track. It's quite a
Okay.
cool track. I think
Yeah.
it's good racing in Montreal, so I think I think it'll be a good one.
Okay.
Mm.
Let's see. I don't know. I think we know McLaren's been dominant. I'd be interested to see if there's a Ferrari podium again. Because Charles has been kind of like he was two in Monaco,
Hmm.
three here. Can he keep that momentum going? Will we see, you kind of think it's always going to be McLaren and then Max, right? And then we thought George was waiting in the wings, but I
Might
think
be
maybe,
Charles instead.
yeah, I think Charles
Hmm.
might be now waiting more in the wings. So let's see if he's able to get on the podium again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to do it. So we will see you at the next one.
See you at the next one.